While Apple has been posting one record high after another, at least valuations-wise, other names have been left behind. But Chartmaster Carter Worth, yes, we're going to go back to you, has some picks ready to come to life. Carter, what besides Apple can you still have some upside in?
Sure. So before we look at the charts, the thought here was we know that the S&P is making all-time highs, and yet basically only 13% of the S&P stocks are making all-time highs. In fact, 50% of the index has made no progress in 2 years. And so is that an opportunity? Some would say the ones that aren't working for a reason. But I've singled out 3. So let's look at the first slide. And this is basically showing you the stocks we're going to look at. It's Starbucks, Caterpillar, and DuPont. And it's showing you how far each is down from its all-time high. Starbucks down 15, Caterpillar down 18, and DuPont down 49. So real laggards compared to the S&P. So let's look at their charts, and it's all a common circumstance. First, Starbucks. And I've annotated each one with that downward sloping line. And what you see here is that Starbucks is threatening to break above that line. And I think, in fact, that's what's going to happen. So here's a very large cap name that has catch-up potential. Now look at the next one. This is Caterpillar. Its peak wasn't a year ago, as in the case of Starbucks. Its peak was more than 2 years ago. But it's the same circumstance, that downward sloping trend line, and the stock is moving up to it and presenting the opportunity, that's the thought, that it will break through. We think it does. And finally, DuPont. This is the one that's down the most. It too peaked in January of 2018, long ago, like Caterpillar. But again, a stock that's come up dramatically off its low from March, more so than the market, and is showing the potential that it's going to finally break trend to the upside. So 3 very large cap names that are down considerably versus the market, which is making all-time highs, laggards for catch-up.
All right, Guy, let's talk about Starbucks, Caterpillar, and DuPont. Do any of those names strike a tuning fork with you?
The first 2, I'll go backwards. Caterpillar, I thought for a while now was going to head up to those recent highs of 150. You know, it's been having trouble at 142, but it seems to have some tailwinds for the first time in a while. So I'm with Carter on that. The one that really is interesting to me is Starbucks, and Carter is, or either Barron's is echoing Carter, or Carter is sort of talking about some of the things were said in Barron's over the weekend, but he's right. It is absolutely on the verge of a breakout. You've been putting this base in the low 80s for quite some time, and I think, you know, Carter would probably agree. A close above 88 probably sets you up to push towards that $100 level. So those 2 are interesting to me. DuPont has issues, you know, in and of itself. The other 2, though, I find pretty compelling at these levels.
I mean, Karen, are there names there that you think are poised for the upside in that list or elsewhere?
Well, Starbucks, actually. I own Starbucks. I think, you know, it's expensive if you're just looking at this year, but I think next year it's multiple sort of in the mid to high 20s, and I think the year after that, I think they'll be not only back to where they were in 22, I think they'll actually be above where they were. So I like Starbucks. I'm long. It doesn't matter actually where you bought it, but I've been long for a while. I'm staying long.
All right, Bonawyn, anybody on that list that you like in terms of valuations at these levels?
Well, CAT actually I've owned. I mean, we've talked about market leadership. They definitely qualify there. I actually have been putting some stops or owning puts, and I've gotten taken out of some of those names. I would play it slightly different. I would wait for it to hold the new trend. Now, I'm probably going to miss out on a few percent there, but that's the way that I'd be looking to play it. Like, it's got to hold a floor for me, and I would rather ride that trend rather than try to pick the beginning of said trend.